Good morning, everyone. This is class of PG1, and today we will be learning how to work with InDesign. And our approach will be project based. That means we will learn design InDesign while we are attempting to design a a newspaper layout. And this is what we have selected for exploring. We will try to make something similar. The images will be different, the text will be just the placeholder text, but the layout is main focus of ours during this exercise. So let's quickly jump to the InDesign, and as I go along I'll also introduce you with the interface briefly. It's very similar to Photoshop or Illustrator since the InDesign belongs to Adobe Suite. So a similar style of welcome screen you have with couple of options here at the left of corner, new file and open. So we'll go with new file, gives me the new document dialog box. Let's stay for a couple of minutes to understand the problem options available here, because these are slightly different than Illustrator or InDesign's or Photoshop's options. So the same tabbed style selector we have here where we can choose different presets. So I'm gonna straight away go to the print and go for, let's say that I want to go for I can choose a tabloid also. But for the sake of convenience we'll go for A3. On the right hand side here you have the choice of giving it a name, and we will call it newspaper layout. And below we have width, height, number of pages we want, on which page I want the page number to start, do we want a primary text frame or not. So all of these options I'll explain when we start working inside the, yeah, what any questions. So primary text frame will basically give you one additional text frame. So if you divide it in multiple columns, so in those columns you'll find one text frame already created for you. So but I never prefer that because I want to create my own thing. Yeah, you have option of choosing the orientation, portrait and landscape, and then you have the option of facing pages. Right now we are not building a multi-page document, so facing pages, whether it is on or off, wouldn't matter, right? In the next class we will learn how to work with multiple pages, right? Okay. And actually InDesign is something which is meant to deal with multiple pages, in fact thousands and thousands of pages, and that is what InDesign is there for. Otherwise creating one single layout, I think that is more like a illustrator's job, right? But then there are some options which will be really helpful uh, for layouting content which flows in multiple columns, and that feature is also available in Illustrator, but it works better in InDesign. So then we have column gutter. Column we can define as many as we want. By default we will have one column to work with, and we will do all these settings after defining the document. Ideally I should be defining it here only, but for the sake of this exploration I'll show you ways how you can do it even after you have defined it here, not defined it here in the new document dialog box. Gutter is the space between columns. Okay, so let me, for the sake of showing you gutter, let me go for 3 column layout. In fact, why don't we just go and then quickly check the thing which we are attempting to draw, how many columns do we have here. So I noticed that we have, if I break it down, there are some columns which are merged in places. So now this belongs to this particular column, so I think 2 columns are here, then 2 columns are here in the center, and there is 2 more columns here. So we can go for 6 column layout. So let's go for that. We will type in 6 here, and gutter space between columns is 1 picas. Now this is a different measurement convention which we haven't come across so far. Picas is utilized in the printing press industry. I don't know how the conversion works actually. You can, but if you go for inches, see, one pica, 33 picas are equal to 5.5 inches. You can do the math and find out what it is. Okay, so when I do things, I usually prefer it to be in inches. I can visualize things better. I have a better size approximation when I think in inches. There are people who prefer in millimeters. There are people who prefer in centimeters. The magazine or publication industries prefer it in picas basically. So now here the margin is again defined in picas, and the best thing is, let's say that I am not able to visualize the margins in picas so nicely. So here, notice this thing. All of these are logged right now. The top, bottom, inside and outside margins are logged. Inside and outside is the concept in InDesign for defining left and right hand side, because InDesign is meant to deal with multiple pages. So their left and right will be very confusing. So they say inside. Inside means inside the spine where the book the pages are joining. So that is called spine. So that would be inside, and outside would be the outside part of it. Because the pages will be placed like linearly now, one page and the next page, so its left is going to be different than its left, the other page is left. So to avoid that confusion, they have created the terms inside and outside. Right now we will not be worried about that. In our case, inside will be the left hand side, and outside would be the right hand side. Now here, for defining, let's say that I want a margin of uh, let's, why don't we just go and then check our artwork in that case. So I feel that half inches is fine, right? So let's go to InDesign, and here I can type in 0.5 IN. If I add the suffix IN, it will automatically convert it into picas. So if I enter, oh sorry, I shouldn't be entering actually, but I did anyway. I should have ideally pressed tab. So it added 0.5 margin inches. If I want to go back to the settings, I can do that by pressing Alt Control P on the keyboard, which brings up the document setup dialog box. Remember the shortcut: Alt Control P. For Mac, it will be Command Option P. So in the document setup dialog box, you will find similar options, and here is the margin. Okay, in the margin, it is set to 3 picas.
Because 6 picas is 1 inch.
Yeah, so that means 0.5 is 3 picas, and it was set to 3.5 picas even without we changed it. So I'm gonna change it just for making it different. 0.25 inches. And now if I click on preview, you will see the changes happening here. Also, I noticed that the gutter space is too much. So we'll need to reduce the gutter space. Do you see any option here for reducing the gutter space? नहीं दिख रहा ना? ये तो बड़ी दिक्कत हो गई यार.
नहीं, प्रोजेक्टर में.
अच्छा, प्रोजेक्टर में नहीं दिख रहा. But here, do you see any option? No, because gutter has nothing to do with document, but gutter has everything to do with margins. So we will go to the layout, and then there is this option where it says margins and columns. We'll click on that, and instantly we get to see the gutter space, and it is set to 1 pica. I don't want it to be 1 pica, and I don't know how much I want it, but I want it lesser than what it is currently. So I'm gonna set the value to 0.15 inches, and then hit tab on the keyboard this time. Okay, I know I don't have I can see did not make much of the change. So let me go for 0.75 sorry, 0.075 in, and this is what we want, right? A quarter of an inch. No, not a quarter, in fact much lesser than a quarter actually, less than a centimeter in fact. Okay, if you have noticed in that column, in that dialog box, we had options of adjusting the number of columns also. So we could have reduced it to 3 or 4 or would have increased it also. But for our purpose, this works perfect. A good setup we have now. Now we will have to just place these things. So let me just right click on it, copy image and come into InDesign and place it here. And we will use this as a reference. Before we start building our thing, a couple of concepts which are very, very important for you to understand. Let me show you. The way InDesign deals with content. Content means text and images. These are the two type of contents we usually deal with. Unless we are using interactive documents, we are making interactive documents. In that case, we will also use buttons or hyperlinks. For now, that is out of the scope of discussion. So we'll focus on text and images, right? So I have copied and pasted something here. All right. So couple of quick concepts. The way we can import things in InDesign, or the way we can bring images inside InDesign, is by copying and pasting, which will automatically embed the content inside the file. There is a concept of linking also. And when you are dealing with multi-page documents, you should be very, very clear on the concept of linking images. Okay. All right. Now we will not be stressing much upon how the content is linked or errors of links fixed in today's discussion, because that is not so important. We are dealing with just one single page. But in the next class, when we deal with multiple page layouts, then we will look at that. Another important thing to understand here is how InDesign allows me to manipulate the graphic content. So the concept of InDesign is very simple. It does not imports images as separate entities, or as you could say independent entities. It always imports it as something which is a part of a frame. So there is a container within which the image sits. There will be text container within which text is going to sit. Remember this. It's not like Photoshop or Illustrator where you can just, independently pull objects and then use them. So here the image is inside a container. And if you click on this, you will see some handles appearing, and those handles allow you to manipulate the content. So I can rotate them, right? But if I try to transform them, it's not gonna happen, because what I'm doing essentially is I am transforming the container, not the content inside it. Okay. So be very clear about it. Now, if you hover on top of it, this circle will appear, you know, and this is known as content grabber. So what it allows you to do is click on it and then move it. And what I'm doing this time, I'm moving the content, not the frame. Okay. So I'll say Control Z couple of times. If I want to move the frame and the content, both the things, I'll have to simply click and then drag. Make sure that you are not on this. The hand cursor should not be visible. Otherwise, you will end up moving the content, not the container. Okay. Now, what if I want to resize the content and container at the same time? So, I'm going to hold shift and then do it. But in this case, it's not gonna work, because we need to hold control while doing it. Shift is not the key. But if I hold control and then try to do it, we might end up losing the proportion, right? We might end up we might end up distorting the image. So I'm going to say Control Z and hold Control and Shift both together and click and drag. This way, I can resize the content without breaking the proportion. Got it? Perfect. So we know how to move images. We know how to crop images inside the container. Either by resizing the container we can do that, right? Another thing is, notice the outline here. A very fine blue line is going to appear. If you click and the blue line gets highlighted, that means we have selected the container. Now if I double click on this, you will see that the blue line is going to turn into a brown line, and that means we have selected the content. Now if I move, I'll be moving the content. Okay, so two options how we can move the content, either by using the content grabber or by double clicking inside. Okay, understood?
Yes.
Clear. So this time the image is embedded in InDesign file. It is part of InDesign file. It is not linked because I copied the content from the browser and pasted it here, right? That file is non-existent in my local computer. So InDesign had no other option than embedding this file. All right, but there are other ways also, as I said, and that I'll cover later on, or maybe today only, but I'll not stress much upon how to manage the links, and while exporting what should we do with the missing links if that is the case. All right, so I quickly want to crop this solid space around it to just make the space tidy, and that can be done simply by clicking, dragging from of the sides and adjusting the frame to best fit the content inside. Okay, and then I can move this here. And in fact, I don't want the right hand side also because this is just a page curl effect. I'm gonna do this, and we will keep it as a reference and start building our thing. So first thing what I notice here is that one column is there. Have you been told about what this is? What this is called masthead on or hierarchies? No, that is out of scope of discussion. I'll focus not on those things. Ideally, you should learn about those names. The journal which is written, that is called masthead, or the whole part. This entire part is masthead, and inside the masthead you have the title, heading, subheading, and there is a structure in which the newspaper is. There is byline. There is many things are there. So if I can find out an infographic about that, I'll share that with you. Okay. Well, so here for navigating, I am holding Alt on the keyboard and scrolling up and down. To pan inside the workspace, I am holding spacebar, clicking and then dragging to pan inside the space. Very same, will exactly same as Illustrator or Photoshop. Okay, so I see that it's divided in three columns. The center column is the biggest one and it is acquiring four columns, four units, right? So before we start building things up, because we will be dealing with text objects, let me quickly tell you how text objects are introduced. So again, you need a frame, right? So if I click on type tool and if I simply click, nothing is gonna happen. If I start typing, nothing is gonna happen because InDesign will not allow the text to live independently within its workspace. It always has to have a text frame, right? There is no concept of point text in InDesign. It has to be a paragraph text always. In Photoshop you have point text, in Illustrator you have point text, in InDesign you do not have point text. Memorize this. It may be in the quiz, who knows. So text tool will always utilized with the paragraph. Now if I click and okay, sorry, I by mistake changed the tool. I'm gonna go back to the text, click and then drag, and now I have introduced a text frame. Now if I click outside, the frame still is going to live even if it does not have any text inside it. All right, and I can resize the frame any way I want. So I would be putting it here, and let's say this much is the space allocated for whatever is written here. Okay, today also I'm not going to cover graphic styles and paragraph styles and character styles. Okay, because that again is going to complicate things a lot. So I'll be just independently changing the style, right? And I'll be copying the styles also. So for the left hand side, if the text styles uh, are in a certain manner and I want to use that style in a different area, I'll simply copy the attributes, but I'll not show you how to define those character styles or paragraph styles. That I'll leave for the next class. Why I keep on introducing you things which I'm not going to cover for this session, so that you can do your own research about it, right? And then next time when I show it, you should ask questions. Okay. So this text frame can have text inside it. If you double click, it allows you to enter inside the editing mode, inside it, and go to the editing mode, and you can type in text. Now the size of the text is too big here, and also I don't want to write this gibberish here. Rather, what I would prefer is to fill this area with some placeholder text. So earlier we had the only option of going to a website, finding the placeholder text and filling inside the thing, filling inside the text frame.
Okay.
But now InDesign has given this option of going to the type menu and then choosing this option of fill with placeholder text. If I click on this, it's automatically going to create some lorem ipsum for us, which is utilized as placeholder text, and it's going to fill up the empty area. In this case, the text size is too big for us, right?
Okay.
So we will reduce the size. We will first select the whole thing and we will reduce it by going to the properties panel on the right hand side, and here it says appearance, fill, stroke. This can also have a fill, a stroke also, but we are more
Correct.
concerned about the character settings here. And I'm going to choose, let's say, not minion pro, okay, or if we have Times New Roman, we can go with that. I'll choose Times New Roman.
We can use a sans serif font there, no? Because it is sidewall, not the heading.
But we will not be discussing those things here right now, out of scope. We
Okay.
will just be focusing on the software, learning the software. Those discussions, if you are interested, I can have in a different class. Okay, whether to put sans serif, serif, why to put serif, why to put sans serif, those discussions I'll have it in a different class. So I'm gonna go with Times New Roman and the size is 12 points. I'm gonna reduce it to 6 points, or maybe go even lesser. Now also, let's not discuss, because I'm doing it in a different scale altogether. The layout is supposed to be on A2 size, right? I'm doing it on A3, so I'll be overcompensating. What should be 6 point, I'll go for 3 points here. Okay, now I see that the text is not exactly at the top. So there are two ways how we can change it. Either I can simply click here and then drag it down, which will not be a good idea.
We have padding.
We should be adding padding. Okay, so let's add some more text first. So I'm going to go, or to use those the placeholders, uh, I'll quickly make a copy of it and fill it up with some placeholder text so that I can keep on utilizing it in multiple places. So let me just select this, go to the type, go to fill with placeholder text. I have a lot of text to play around with now, and I can simply copy the amount I want and paste it here. Okay, and all the other settings can be done via paragraph styles dialog box. So here, let me quickly add one paragraph break, and then let's try to style this. So in order to do that, sorry, I have by mistake changed the characters. So here we have some paragraph settings for alignment. Okay, we have some settings, and more settings will be hidden here. And there we have some settings in terms of indentation, right? But there are a lot of other settings also which are hidden in paragraph styles. So I'll quickly introduce you with paragraph styles, but we are not covering it in full detail. I'm gonna go to the window and then look for paragraph styles, and then we have paragraph styles. Now that brings up this panel, and there we have a paragraph style by default defined for us, which is basic paragraph. So we should create one new paragraph style for us, which will be applied to these two sections. Okay. So I'm gonna click on new button here, which adds new paragraph style. I'm going to double click on this and change the name to masthead
How is it spelled?
small.
MAST.
Yeah.
Uh,
And then I'm going to double click on it to apply this paragraph style. You just have it, just needs to be selected. So if you select it and click on this, it will be applied to it. If you double click on it, it takes you to a place where you have many options to play around with the paragraph style. And there I have basic character formatting, advanced character formatting, indents and spacing, many things which we can play around with, right? So I can increase the left indent. If I switch on the preview, I can increase the left indent. I can put some right indentation also, right? And I can put some space before, space after the paragraph. These are two paragraphs, and we are in paragraph styles. Now these settings we will see in more detail later on. Then let's look at
top and bottom.
for top and bottom. Wait, indents and spacing. Here we don't have that option, right? You will have those options. The padding option is not here because the paragraph doesn't have it, I think.
Borders.
No.
Border will be different.
Wait. Advanced character. No, this has nothing to do with this. Okay. Let's for now. Let's just push it down. Too much of text, I think we have here. So either we will find that in character. But see, whatever you do, never just press an enter to do it. That would be a bad idea. Don't do that. Okay. So the good way to do it is resize the text frame. Don't put enter there. So we have done this one. Now comes this part. For this part, we will again have to create a text frame which spans four columns, and let's and there okay, it's only three. We'll go there, and then we will make a copy of this one by holding alt and then dragging it to the right hand side. And here we will have to type this big text. So double click and let's call it journal. Oh, it's all caps. By the way, this capitalization and all those things can be taken care by going to the type menu, and then you can choose the case you want. So even if you have typed in lowercase, it can go for you can change it to title case, uppercase, or lowercase. Ideally, you should be typing always in small case and using those things. So here, I think I have by mistake added some space here. Let me get rid of that. So one thing I realize is that it needs to be center aligned. So we'll quickly go to the paragraph settings and click on center aligned. And I want to increase the size of it. So I can do it also by the keyboard shortcut, Control Shift period on the keyboard. I keep on pressing it and it will incrementally increase the size.
Right
And
arrow.
there'll be a time.
That's actually right arrow. Because shift the button.
So
Tick.
yeah, you call it Control Shift period and comma period period. Right arrow will be confusing. Somebody will press the right arrow key. That is why we
Greater than
uh, so I have increased the size of now. We can make it bold also. It's Minion Pro. I'll go for Minion Pro only, but we don't have a bold variation in this. So we can choose a different font. That's fine.
सर ये मिल गया
Let's go for
inside
Times
text
New
inside text frame.
अच्छा वहां से हो जाएगा कंट्रोल बी प्रेस करके मैं भूल गया था so if you press control B you will get text frame options and there you have option indent spacing top yes slower as in you want to do it side by side with me there'll be a video recorded for it so the video is going to be of 2 hours then you can pause the video ठीक है or you can watch the video side by side that would be a good way to practice if you want me to cover in 2 classes the InDesign this is the pace I can go ठीक है but I'll try to slow down ठीक है so what I have done so far is I have created 2 text boxes on either of the side and assigned some styles to them and also in the center I have created a text box which spans 4 columns for our title and below that I see some text written here so we can create that by using this text frame only and placing it here and spanning it across 4 columns and getting all the text in one single line okay and we will have to put this also in the center so we'll select this text frame and click on the center button here now I see that there are some separator lines also on the top at the bottom in between these 3 columns as well to draw the line we will use the line tool and we simply have to click and then drag so we'll go along the guidelines we will click and then drag and let go of the mouse button here if the thickness of the line is too much you can control that in the similar way the way you have done it in Illustrator so you select it go here in the strokes panel and you have all the options available to you so I'm gonna switch it to 0.75 points now I'm going to make a copy of this line by holding alt and then dragging it down and leaving it here okay I believe the thickness is too much in both the lines so I can select both of them come here and go for 0.25 0.5 points instead now if it is a problem to visualize how it is looking and you want to hide the guidelines the shortcut is same control plus semicolon same as Illustrator or Photoshop control plus semicolon if you also want to hide these bounding boxes control plus H is the shortcut control plus H hides the bounding boxes also the frames basically and it's a toggle button so you can press control plus H back again to bring it back okay I'll say control semicolon once again to bring everything back okay now I realize that we have to put all these text frames in the center of these 2 lines we had created so I can select all 4 of them simply by clicking and then dragging ensuring that all of them are touching the marquee I have created by dragging around, and then use my arrow keys to push it up. But before I start pushing it up, I'll have to ensure that the first tool in the toolbar, which is selection tool, should be selected. Okay. Now I realize by mistake I forgot to take this text frame into the selection. So I'm holding shift and clicking on this. Now if it is becoming too much of a trouble to click and select things, there are ways how we can select it. You can hit F7 on the keyboard to bring on the layers panel, and there if you expand you will find everything which you have created. And here I want to select what? Everything except the two lines, right? So I can simply click here, here, and then select those things. I want to select these four, so I can hold shift and keep on clicking on this to make sure that they are included in the selection. Now I realize that I have accidentally selected this part also. There should be four elements here, so I can come here, and if it is convenient for us to visually eliminate it from the selection, either I can do it from here or from here also. I'll have to just say shift and click on this. This journal text should also be included, so I'm gonna hold control and then click on this.
Shift and click.
Yeah, sorry, shift on this. Shift click will allow you to make multiple selections, and then use the arrow keys to push it up a little. Below that we have three column distribution where we have a background and some text written inside. The text is formatted in an hierarchy where the heading is bigger, the body is
Okay.
the tiniest, and below that we have some text which is
Linking to the page.
like a subtitle, and the right one has an image behind it and some text written on top of it. So let's try doing that. First we will do this. So here, since it's all text, it would be a good idea to start with a text layer, but I would advise you to create a rectangle. You can do it all with the text tool also, uh, but for now, just for today, this is the wrong way of doing it. You should not be doing it this way if you are dealing with a multiple page layout. Not wrong actually, but not the best way to do it. So learn this. So if you draw a rectangle, by default it will have a black outline and nothing filled inside it. I don't want any outline. I want a solid fill. So I'm gonna hit shift plus X, which
Invert
changes the swaps the outline color with the fill color.
from black.
So it's gonna be black. Now I can use my eyedropper tool. I'll hit I on the keyboard, and when this graphic selected, I just have to come here and sample out the color. Okay, and then I hit B on the keyboard, V on the keyboard to switch back to the move tool. I'll zoom in and make sure that it is properly aligned with the guidelines, and here I need to type in the text. Couple of methods, let's explore them. So I have made a few copies, and we will on purpose do some mistakes, try to fix them and learn the better way of doing it. One thing is that I create a text frame outside. Notice the text frame, the text cursor changes the moment I hover on top of the shape. The text cursor changes. If I go outside, the text cursor is different. What this means? Yeah, it is different. It's a square right now. It's a circle right now. So when it turns into a circle, that means if I click, I'll be typing inside the shape. If I click outside, that means I'll be initiating a text frame. Perfect. So I'm gonna create a text frame here. Okay. Make it slightly, like, let it span two columns, and then fill in the text of my choice here by copying some text from here. Okay. Now we'll have to first adjust, first break it into three parts so that we can have something for the header and something for the, yeah, let's call it footer. It is not a footer, but let's call it footer. So I'll select this part, and first thing I'm gonna do, because it's a heading, I'll go to type, choose change case, and choose a title case, right? And for this, I'm gonna go type, change case, choose sentence case. All right. Now I need to introduce some space in between. So all those things can be done with paragraph style, but for now I'm just gonna hit enter, which is not the right way to do it. I'm again repeating, not the correct way to do it. So let's go back. Let's just do this.
After paragraph.
Okay. So I have increased the size of it. Let's increase the size of this one also. Select all of it. Click on this button, and we have something very much similar to what we have here. Now this thing,
Is there any option to align text to middle? Like we have
text to middle as in
center, left, and right for alignment.
Justified, you are saying?
No, not justified. You got the left, center, and right alignment along, and so there is also not top, middle, and bottom. Middle wala alignment.
Top, middle, and bottom.
So is there any middle?
I
Like
don't
Illustrator has?
No, I don't. Illustrator now has. Earlier there were no options. Now has. InDesign, I'm not sure if it has. I'll have to check.
Because then it would become so easy to.
Yeah, it will become very easy that way. But I don't think it is there. I don't think it is there, because when I used to use InDesign, it was not there. That I can tell you for sure. Till CS, till CC 2018 also, 2019 also, it was not there. Thereafter I have stopped using InDesign much, because I'm not working much with print publications, so no idea. But one thing I can assure you, whatever you want to do with text can be done in InDesign, some or the other way. There are routes. Same way we found the gradient thing, so there are routes. Okay. So here we can define a new paragraph style and then work with it. Okay. But let's quickly define it. I'm not gonna name it or anything, or let's just give it a name, top box text. Okay. And indents and spacing, I want left indentation a little bit, and right also same. So just copy here, paste here. Okay. And space before I want a little, right? Done. Space after is not needed, na? I want this much is fine, and they'll say okay, done. Now I just have to drag it and place it here. That's it. Now this way is the most convenient way of doing it. There are some other ways also, and
this is not the right way. No,
but this is not the right way. But this is the convenient way. If you just have to make one single page, just do it like this. Get done with this. Okay? Okay? All right. But if you are doing like 1,000 pages and in that you have to use it in multiple places, then there are better ways of doing it. I'll not cover that today.
Like creating
A graphic style
graphic stuff.
and merging it with a paragraph style and clubbing them together as group. That would be a better idea. That would be the best idea. The second best idea is to just use a text frame and give it a background and then play around with the text frame uh, text frame options. That would be also a good idea. So instead of doing this, I can just utilize this and then give it a background color. So I can fill it with a color of my choice. But for that, you will have to make a swatch first, right? Or pick it from here. Okay. But from the top and bottom, then again, Control B to bring up the text frame options and switch on the preview and add some space here. Add some space here. Oh, sorry, it's adding space on
left, right
from all the sides. Now this is a good idea, not the best idea, but good idea. Okay. Control B for bringing text frame options. Otherwise, you can go to the object menu. In the object menu, you have this option text frame options. Okay. All right. So one we did it in this fashion. Another, let's keep this one, right? So we have covered both the ways. And I want to change the color in this one. What should I do? I should just select and choose my color. Convenient, right?
Change the foreground also.
What foreground?
Text color.
Oh, yes. I have to change the text color to white. Now, understand this. If you select a text box and you fill a color into it, it's not going to affect the text color. It will fill a color simply inside it. So, for changing the color of the text, you have to make sure that the text is selected. And then you will see this T written here. If you see this T written here, that means you are changing the color of the text, not the text box's color. So now I can simply double click on this, which brings me the color picker. And another amazing thing in InDesign, there is no white color in it. You'll get to the white color if you select the hue. By default, it will be set to R. Unlike Photoshop, where by default hue is selected. So if you hue prioritize it, then you have the white selector here. A lot of people struggle with it, so I thought I'll pick the color from the color picker rather. Great. So I have filled in with white, and here I just have to select this and
Copy style.
no. If I copy the style, the text box's color is also going to go away. So I'll not do that mistake. I'll rather select all of it and then repeat the process. Okay. So hue prioritize, select this, say okay. And I feel for some reason that these two should be sans serif fonts. So I'm going to select both of them and simply go here and then choose Roboto. I don't have. What should I choose? Arial. Poppins. Poppins कैसा है? है ही नहीं मेरे पास. So Arial is fine. Arial is good. ठीक है. Now after selecting Arial, we have some problems in this that we will just settle by deleting some text. Okay. And I would like to change the header also. So I'll just copy text from here and paste it here. But see, because the paragraph style was different, it is not behaving the way it should, right? So I'll just let it be. Later on you can change it, or just maybe change these 3 letters.
Is there an option to add?
There are many options. Don't worry, we'll cover that. But right now it will be too complex. So third option is we should use a picture in the background. Now ideally, if it is a graphic, it should be created in a different program and brought in here. Okay. But here in this case, we will just quickly bring a picture. So uh, now we will see. Let me save this file first. I'm gonna go to the data and demos, call it InDesign and newspaper layout. Okay. Now for bringing this image, first we'll have to find that on Google. Let's go look at that image. What should I type? Girl watching side from window. I don't know why I typed it, but I have no reason why I typed it, but since so this one, yeah, let's choose this one. Looks nice. No, it's very tiny. So let's go for this one. This one is big enough. Now I'm gonna right click on this. What about this one? This one is good. So I'm gonna right click, open image in a new tab to get to the biggest possible size of it. Then right click on it and then choose save image as, and I'm going to save it. Now remember this. This is a very important lesson. Always before starting with an InDesign project, make a project folder. Okay, hard code this in your brain. Make a project folder, otherwise you'll keep on looking for the assets you have utilized in your project, and at the time when you need the file to be printed, you will export it and everything is going to go crazy, right? So I'm gonna go to the folder where I have created, and instead of saving it here, I'm just going to right click on it and then create a folder. Control Shift 10, create a folder, and we will call it newspaper layout. Now this is my root folder or project folder, inside which I'm gonna create another folder and call it images. And inside that I'm going to save this image. It would be a better idea to rename it also. So girl looking outside, and save it. Now this file needs to be brought in InDesign. So what we will do here is press Ctrl D on the keyboard. Unlike Illustrator, here Ctrl D will not be utilized for
duplicating the,
yeah, like Illustrator, it will not be duplicating, but rather open up the place dialog box. And in the place dialog box, you will realize automatically it will direct you to the folder where the file was saved. So I can see newspaper layout.ind here, and inside that there is this folder newspaper layout. So before I do anything, let me fix this thing, because this is not how the project folder should be organized. So I'm going to cancel this and quickly save the file and close it, and go to my folder where that file is saved, InDesign, and I'll just drag this one inside the project folder we have created. So this is how the project folder is gonna look like. InDesign file and an image folder inside which I'll store all the images I need. If I use some vector content, I'll also create another folder and keep all the vector contents there. Okay. So let's go back to InDesign and I'll just click on the recent file. It says one or more file shortcut could not be resolved. Why it is showing me this? Because I changed the directory of that file. So I'll have to open it from either clicking on open option or by going there and simply double clicking on this. We are back now. Now we will press Ctrl D quickly, go inside our root folder, go inside the image folder, select the girl, and then there are some options here. Okay, I would want you to understand these options on your own and make sense of them. These are very, very self-explanatory. So while exploring, look at these options, see what they do, and let others also know. So I'm gonna say open, and a beautiful way how InDesign loads the images in the cursor itself and allows us to place it wherever we want it to. Okay, right? So in this case, this is not the right way to do it. I should have ideally created a frame here, and after selecting the frame I should have placed the image, so it would have saved a lot of time and also resize the image right exactly inside the frame. Okay, but if you are loading multiple images, this is a better way to do it, because I can drag and then make the image either fit in this, or I can say Control Z, make the image fit in this, quickly allows me to lay out stuff, right? Or I can say Control Z and then do this also.
Multiple images. So
Okay, in the case of multiple images, I'll show you all those. Don't worry. Right now, we are not focusing. Any question you have, write it down, bring it to me. I'll solve that. So I'll say escape to come out of it. I don't want it. First, I'll prepare the space where I want the image to go. So for that, we have some frame tools. So I'll go for a rectangle frame tool to block the space where we want the image to go. Okay. And then select this and say Control D on the keyboard, double click on this, and instantly it goes within the space we have designated it. Now the question comes how I can move it. I think this got placed beautifully, exactly how I wanted it. So I'm gonna just let it be there, or maybe I think this is good. This is good. I like it. Now the question is why it is looking so pixelated, and will it be the case if I print it? And this image is linked image, right? So first question, why is it looking pixelated? It is looking pixelated because InDesign is trying to render it in least quality possible. Okay, why? Because InDesign is supposed to deal with large number of assets, multiple pages. So if it loads all the images in its fullest quality, it will hog up the RAM and make it very sluggish to perform. Okay, so InDesign will load up the image and try to give you the preview in the least possible quality so that you just understand, okay, this content is there. Now the question is, what if accidentally I have imported a very bad image into it? I'll never be able to learn that whether this image is suitable for printing or not. Right practice would be to examine the image before you put it in the image folder. But we all are not right people, right?
Yeah.
We all are like so organized in ourselves that we will never do that.
At times, even if we do it, we forget. Na?
You forget, and many things happen, right? So for that, yeah, projector is like too much for the day. So for that, there is this option in the view menu which says overprint preview, and the shortcut for the same is Control Alt Shift and Y. So if you click on this, you will see that it will show the image in its fullest quality. Not in the fullest quality also, but as per the merit of the size of the page. Okay. But in this case, because image is 600 by 600, I think, so it's showing it in the fullest quality.
Is it for if we like press this shortcut key, so all of the images will
All of them. All of them.
all of them.
All of them.
We can
So
toggle it off. Na?
yeah, you can toggle it off. Alt Control Shift Y. So while layouting, you should always work in this mode, and if you wish to check it, you should press Alt Control Shift Y. So how would I want, if let's say that right now, if I want to see how it is looking, yeah. So what are the shortcuts I should hit? First, I need to get rid of the columns, hide them. So Control semicolon, then Control H, right? I'll just have to get out of it, deselect it, and that is how I can see it. And plus, if I want to see if the quality of the image is good or not, Control Alt Shift Y, right? Then I'll be able to see it better. This is what we have built so far. Okay, so I'm gonna go back by saying Control Alt Shift Y once, then Control semicolon and Control H. Now these are too many shortcuts, right? So there is a presentation mode also, which can be brought by going here, and we can choose a preview mode or a presentation mode. The shortcut is Shift plus W for the presentation mode, and for preview mode you'll have to go here and select. I don't remember the shortcut. If you find it, let me know. Okay, so in the preview mode, look at the image quality, and in the presentation mode, look at the image quality. In the presentation mode, it will show you a full screen version of it, where you can not zoom in. Actually, you cannot zoom in. It won't allow you to zoom in this case, but it renders the full quality preview. Okay, so I'll say escape to come out of it, and then go to the normal mode by selecting it from here, which brings all the guidelines and other cues, visual cues back. Yes. No, if you are exporting the file, na, it will not matter how it is looking in InDesign. As long as your link is correct and the file which you have linked is of good quality, while exporting, InDesign will render it. And while exporting, na, there are some settings which we need to tweak up. I'll tell you about that later. You should always save it as PDF. Yeah, export the file in PDF and it will work fine. No problem. But link should be established correctly. Now I have some text written here. So I'm also going to write some text here. And for that, I'll create a text frame on top of it. And I can type in things. So I'll just copy things from here. A few words. And then say Control V. Select all. And increase the size. And then, just let's say it's gonna be, do we have impact? Yes, we have impact. Impact is too harsh for it, so let's go for Arial bold. No, this is not looking so nice. What about black? Yeah, this is fine. So I'll just quickly add something here. I don't know. Okay, and I want this to be in title case, so I'm gonna select all, go to the type, change case, title case quickly, and then you can keep on.
Is it possible to link a Photoshop file in this?
Yes, it is possible to link a Photoshop file, an Illustrator file also you can link.
So like we can
Yes,
there because
yes,
that is an
yes,
good place.
yes,
Take.
yes. We can do that. Okay. So I'm not gonna change the colors here. You can do it yourself. You know how to change the colors, right? You just have to select the text, then come here, double click on it, and choose the color selector by switching to the hue, and you can pick out a color of your choice. So since I'm here, let me just change this one. Okay. All right. So we have successfully added image written on top of that also, and did these two things also. The next thing is to copy this line which we had created earlier and make a copy of it here, because that's also there, right? So just push it up. Very good. Okay, now a big poster is there. I would advise you to create, if it has too many things in this poster, I would advise you to create it in Illustrator. But in this case, I think not much is there. So we can do it in InDesign also. All we have to do is make a text frame, sorry, a regular frame, a graphic frame, and then put an image there. So let me just quickly go find out an image. And which image should I put? Okay, this one looks nice. It's tiny. It's too big, but I think this will work. Okay. See, sometimes you get fooled by looking at this.
When you click on the link
Then it is gonna, yeah, then it goes to the file. I don't have time for that. Just joking. You should be doing that, huh? Well, so I need a bright image here, not a dark one. So, and not a depressed one, certainly.
Sunrise.
So maybe this one? No.
You can search for a different.
Yes, we can search for a different image also. This one looks fine. Okay. So, save image as the size is very small, but outside I'll change the name. It's important. Control D. Now, in this case, couple of important lessons to take. The image size is not as big as the size of the frame. So I have a few options how I can fit the image inside the frame. We can manually do it by double clicking and then increasing the size of the content, or we can say Control Alt Shift C.
एक दिन में सारे शॉर्टकट.
Okay, Control Alt Shift C. So Control Alt Shift C does what? It fits the content to the frame. Similarly, there are other fitting options also available, which you can see in the properties panel. You should try them out. Okay, if you hover on top of them, it will say what it does. If you want to learn about the shortcuts, then you have to go to the object, go to the fitting options, and then look for the shortcuts. I have used this one. There are some other shortcuts also which you should memorize. Okay. Now, if I want to quickly check the quality, Control Alt Shift Y on the keyboard, and I can see the quality. It's not very good, but I am not gonna print it anyway. It's just for the sake of demonstration. And then we can add this text here on the, instead of left hand side, I would rather add it here on the right hand side. Fine. So for now, I'll just give it a rest. I think this is too much otherwise. What do you guys think? You want to practice this much first? Right? And it will be too long of a video also. So first reach to this level, and then thereafter we will continue building up other things. And if you can do this much, I'm very sure you can do this much also. There is nothing new in this, right? If you can do this much, you can certainly do this. But I am very sure you will make mistake in this section, and I want you to make that mistake. Okay? So make that mistake. 100% sure you will make it wrong. Okay? Yeah. So I'll save this file and I'll stop the video and I'll let you guys practice. Thank you.